Very warm welcome to all of you to the Ministry of External Affairs. Thank you for joining us for a special briefing by Foreign Secretary Sri Vinay Quatra on the upcoming visit of Prime Minister to Russia and Austria. We are also joined on the dais by Secretary West Sri Pavan Kapoor and Additional Secretary Eurasia Division Sri Charanjit Singh, along with Additional Secretary who looks after Central Europe, Sri Arun Kumar Sahu. With that, sir, I invite you to make your opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Secretary West, Pavan Kapoor, colleagues from the Ministry, friends from the media. Thank you very much for coming out this afternoon for this special briefing. I would like to brief our friends from the media, as Randeep just said, on Honorable Prime Minister's upcoming two-nation tour to Russia and Austria. Honorable Prime Minister will pay an official visit to Moscow on 8th-9th July at the invitation of the President of the Russian Federation for the 22nd Annual Summit. The last, that is 21st Annual Summit, you would recall, was held in New Delhi in December 2021. The two leaders thereafter met in September 2022 in Samarkand on the margins of the SCO summit in Uzbekistan. They have also stayed in touch with each other through several telephonic conversations through these years. As of now, Prime Minister is scheduled to arrive in Moscow in the late afternoon of 8th July. President Putin will host a private dinner for Honorable Prime Minister on the day of arrival. The next day, Honorable Prime Minister's interactions would include an interface with the Indian community in Russia. As part of programming elements, Prime Minister will also lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Kremlin, and thereafter Honorable Prime Minister will visit the Rosatom Pavilion at the exhibition venue in Moscow. These engagements will be followed by a restricted level talk between the two leaders, which will then be followed by delegation level talks led by Honorable Prime Minister and the Russian President. Honorable Prime Minister will depart Moscow for Vienna in the afternoon of 9th July. The 22nd Annual Summit between India and Russia would provide an opportunity to the two leaders to review the whole range of bilateral issues, including defense, trade linkages, investment ties, energy cooperation, S&T, education, culture, and people-to-people exchanges. They would also share perspectives on regional and global developments of mutual interest. They would also assess the status of bilateral engagements in groupings such as BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, G20, East Asia Summit, and the UN. The issue of early discharge of Indian nationals who have been misled into the service of the Russian army is also expected to figure in the discussions. Other areas of interest could also include cooperation across the range of areas that I just listed out above. India-Russia have a special and privileged partnership since 2020, which has remained resilient in the wake of multiple geopolitical challenges that the world has been facing. Annual summit between the two leaders is the highest mechanism to steer and drive the cooperation between our two countries. Our bilateral exchanges with Russia have also remained fairly frequent over the last year. The two foreign ministers have met several times last year. Most recently, they met day before yesterday on the sidelines of the SCO summit. EM had also visited Moscow and St. Petersburg in December last year, and the two national security advisors have also met a few times last year. India-Russia bilateral trade has seen a sharp increase in 2023-24. It has since touched close to $65 billion, primarily due to strong energy cooperation between India and Russia. With Indian exports of $4 billion and Indian imports being close to 60 billion, trade remains imbalanced, which is a matter of priority in our discussions with the Russian side. We also have growing investment ties between the two countries, including in the field of energy, banking, railways and steel. These are the growing areas of our investment partnership. Russia also remains an important partner for India's energy security and defense. In the area of nuclear energy, Kudankulam Nuclear Power Plant, Units 1 and 2, have already become operational, and the work is progressing on Units 3 and 6. In the field of defense also, we continue to work closely across a full range of its subdomains. Both sides are currently working on a series of outcome documents which would be the result of this summit. The specifics of these outcomes would be shared with our media friends as and when they are finalized. In the second leg of the trip, Prime Minister will be visiting Austria on 9-10 July at the invitation of the Chancellor of Austria. This will be Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's first visit to Austria. Prime Minister had met the then Austrian Chancellor, who is now the Foreign Minister, His Excellency Schallenberg, in October 21 on the sidelines of COP26 in Glasgow. The last Prime Ministerial visit, I must mention, from India to Austria took place more than 40 years ago. In terms of programming elements, the Prime Minister, besides the ceremonial welcome being accorded to him, would also call on the President of Austria and hold restricted delegation-level talks, as also a high-level business engagement in Austria. Austria is an important Central European country, the headquarters of, as you would all know, International Atomic Energy Agency, UNIDO, UNODC, and OSCE. Austria offers excellent opportunities for bilateral cooperation in infrastructure, renewable energy, high technology areas, startup sectors, media and entertainment. Austria-India trade is largely balanced and has registered good growth over the last couple of years. Our investment linkages also continue to grow, even though in volume terms they may be small. Several Austrian companies have presence in India. In February 24, in India-Austria Startup Bridge was also launched, which has already had a very promising start. India and Austria had also signed a comprehensive migration and mobility agreement in May last year, and both sides will continue to work closely to expand and explore new areas of bilateral partnership. The visit, we are confident, will allow us to discuss various areas of importance in bilateral engagement, as also issues of regional and global importance of mutual interest, and help broaden the scope of our partnership. I would stop here and take questions. Secretary West is here with me to answer any questions relating to the Austria leg of the visit. Thank you very much.
Can you start,
Siddharth from Beyond. My question is, how much will the conflict in Ukraine be part of the conversation when PM meets President Putin? And will India also discuss the aggressive actions by the Chinese in the Indo-Pacific?
Pranay?
सर, प्रणय उपाध्याय जी न्यूज़ से। आपने कहा कि प्रधानमंत्री की इस यात्रा के दौरान एक फोकस होगा कि जो भारतीय वहाँ यूक्रेन के सैन्य मोर्चे पर हैं उनकी वापसी का मुद्दा भी उठाया जाएगा। विदेश मंत्रालय के अनुमान के अनुसार कितने भारतीय जो हैं वो इस तरीके की उनकी संख्या है? और दूसरी बात, रशियन आर्म्ड फोर्सेस के सुप्रीम कमांडर से जब प्रधानमंत्री बात करेंगे तो ये मुद्दा हम पहले भी उठाते रहे हैं, क्या हमारा आग्रह होगा और मांग होगी?
Ranjan Sharma, RT Russia Today. May I ask why Russia was chosen as the first destination for a bilateral ever since Narendra Modi was elected? Thank you.
Huma here.
So I'm Huma Siddiqui from the Financial Express. I have two questions. You talked about the defense being also on the on the agenda. So there's a delay in the delivery of S-400s. Will that also be discussed? And my second question is, what about space sector? Is India going to discuss further cooperation in the space sector with Russia?
Ayushi?
This is Ayush Agarwal from MEA. Sir, will there be any announcement of opening new consulates in Russia too, apart from which we have in St. Petersburg and Vladivostok?
So Dhairya Maheshwari from Sputnik India. So my question is, the first question is regarding the G7 nations. They have called for tightening, sanctions and cracking down on circumvention of sanctions. India and Russia have been looking to diversify trade, increasing Indian exports. So how does India reconcile both the issues? And sir, the second question is, yesterday President Putin, he said that Russia views the Taliban as an ally in the fight against terrorism. Does India see eye to eye with Russia on this? What's your perception on the Afghanistan situation? Thank you, sir.
Kunal?
So this is Kunal Dutt from PTI. Last summit saw 28 MOUs signed and a joint statement being issued. This time, sir, how many MOUs are expected, and what are some of the areas in which the cooperation would be expected, sir? Thank you.
We'll come back for more questions. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. Look, as I mentioned to you in my opening remarks, this is the 22nd annual summit. In all the past summits, whenever Prime Minister has met with the Russian President in the past, and also even in the sideline meetings, for example, I referred to the meeting in Samarkand in 2022, the issues of regional and global importance for both countries are always taken up by the two leaders. You are well aware of what the Honorable Prime Minister spoke when he referred to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine at that time with Russian President. So we are all aware of that. And those issues in terms of how they impact the countries of the Global South, how they have a bearing on the peace and stability in the larger region, and how they also interface with some elements of bilateral engagement would naturally be would expect it to figure in the discussion. Although I think it would not be correct for me to really prejudge the entire spectrum of issues that would figure in the discussion between Honorable Prime Minister and the Russian President. The same would apply to the second part of your question. The developments in Indo-Pacific have a spectrum of opportunities and a spectrum of challenges. And given that they are of significance to both India and Russia, it is possible that they might also figure in the agenda. But again, as I said, it's not correct for me to prejudge what the two leaders would speak about, except to say that issues of regional and global importance would constitute an important element of the conversations that the two would have. प्रणय, आपका जो प्रश्न है जो भारतीय नागरिक रशियन आर्मी में जो गुमराह करके लिए जा रहे हैं और जो वहाँ पर हैं, देखिए जो एग्जैक्ट नंबर है वो तो कहना शायद थोड़ा कठिन होगा, बट ऐसा अनुमानित है कि ये संख्या कहीं भी 30 से लेकर 40-45 तक शायद हो सकती है, मगर ये केवल अनुमान है। लेकिन मैं इसमें ये भी कहना चाहूँगा कि जब हमें जिस किसी भी भारतीय नागरिक को लेकर ऐसी जानकारी प्राप्त हुई है कि उसको गुमराह करके रशियन आर्मी में काम करने के लिए ले जाया गया है, तब हमने बहुत ही सशक्त रूप से, सुदृढ़ रूप से इसको रशियन साइड से उठाया है। भारत में भी वह लोग जो कि भारतीय नागरिकों को गुमराह करके, रिक्रूट करके वहाँ ले जा रहे हैं, उनके खिलाफ सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई की गई है और पूरे प्रयास किए गए हैं कि जितनी जल्दी हो भारतीय नागरिक वापस लौटें। हमारा ये भी लगभग 10 के आसपास 10 भारतीय नागरिक इस प्रक्रिया के अंतर्गत भारत वापस लाए जा चुके हैं और रशियन नेतृत्व के हर स्तर पे, औपचारिक स्तर पे, राजनीतिक स्तर पे हमारा ये बहुत ही प्रबल आग्रह रहा है कि भारतीय नागरिक जो कि गलत प्रक्रियाओं से, गलत तरीके से रशियन आर्मी में ले गए हैं, उनकी शीघ्र अतिशीघ्र भारत वापसी हो। ये हमारे सतत प्रयास रहे हैं और ये प्रयास हर स्तर पे रहे हैं और स्वाभाविक है कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी इसका भी जिक्र उठाने की हम अपेक्षा वहाँ पे रख सकते हैं। On the question relating to Prime Minister's visit, as I mentioned in my remarks, the 21st annual summit was held way back in 21. Thereafter, for last 3 years, there hasn't been an annual summit, although the two leaders have met on the sidelines and have spoken on the phone. So the bilateral visit this time is just a scheduling priority that we have undertaken, and that's what it is. On the question of Humaji, on your question relating to defense cooperation, look, it's I would not be able to comment on the specific elements of discussions under each agenda item, except to say that defense cooperation, India-Russia defense cooperation, is a very important segment of our privileged and strategic partnership, and various elements of it, whether it relates to co-production opportunities between India and Russia here, whether it relates to a supply of spare parts for the existing Russian platforms in India, whether it relates to other equipment that might be involved, what kind of defense cooperation should the two countries have. Those are various subdomains of larger defense cooperation. So those could potentially come up in discussion between the two leaders, but what exactly would be the specifics of it, I would not be able to comment. But I would also like to say that this is an important area of our cooperation, and the two ministries of defense have been in very, very regular touch on taking up the issues that are of priority to us. The same applies to the space sector also. It has a wide-ranging spectrum of elements that the two countries cooperate in, and this will also be this is and will continue to remain an important area of our cooperation. I don't have anything specific to share with you, Aishri, with regard to the opening of the consulates, except to give you a generic sense that it remains our consistent effort to ensure that our diplomatic presence all across the world is expanded, to respond to not just the need of India's bilateral relationships with many of those countries, but also to respond to many of the consular needs that may arise from in a given country from time to time. But nothing specific at this stage to share with you. To the question from Smutnik on the G7 sanctions, look, we on our part have always been very careful in adhering to the UN sanctions. Insofar as the G7 sanctions are concerned, we have been in very regular touch with G7, essentially to protect and progress our national interest and our national needs when it comes to our economic interest and our political interest, whether it relates to diamonds or it relates to other sectors of industry and economy. Look, it's not correct for me to comment on any country's position on any other part of the world, except to repeat to you that, which we have said at many occasions in the past also, that insofar as India-Afghanistan ties are concerned, our relationship with Afghanistan is very heavily people-centric. We have a technical mission presence in Kabul, which essentially responds to the humanitarian and development priorities of Afghan people as they relate to India's capabilities and strengths, which could meet some of those requirements. I don't have specific number or the listing of the MOUs that would be signed to be shared, but as and when they are concretized and finalized, we'd be more than happy to put it out and share them with you.
We'll have the second round of questions. Siddharth.
Hi sir, I'm Siddharth from CNN News 18. So whether the issue of international north-south transport corridor will be taken up, as Prime Minister Modi yesterday in his statement, which was read by EM Jaishankar, highlights the progress that took place recently on Chabahar port. Thank you.
Okay. Jaiprakash.
सर मैं जयप्रकाश हूँ दैनिक जागरण से। आपने कहा कि ट्रेड इम्बैलेंसेस पर बात होगी और प्रायोरिटी ये रहेगा आपके लिए। अभी सर हमारा जैसा जो डाटा आपने दिया है $55 बिलियन का ट्रेड इम्बैलेंस है रसिया के फेवर में, तो क्या प्रपोजल है अपना कि इसको कम किया जा सके?
Shruti.
Sir, Shruti Ranjan from Bloomberg, sir. If you could give us any clarity whether the two leaders are going to discuss the India-Russia payment mechanism, and also can we expect, more Russian investments from the money that is stuck in India?
Sanjeev.
This is Sanjeev Barua from The Week. Prime Minister Modi and President Putin will meet just a day before the major NATO summit in Washington. Again, the next stop, the Prime Minister will be leaving for Austria, which is a neutral country. Can one articulate the messaging here from the Indian perspective?
Smita.
Hi, Smita Sharma. It's actually a related question because in Bergenstock at the Ukraine summit, I had spoken to the Austrian Chancellor, who, while recalling Nehru's role in Austria's freedom from Soviets, also hoped that India would play a more proactive role in bringing Ukraine and Russia to the dialogue table. Is there any scope of an Indian intervention here, given the fact that the party in the run-up to the elections had claimed that the Prime Minister had intervened in the war?
Gautam.
Thank you. I'm Gautam Larry. My question relates to civil nuclear cooperation. As you have said in your initial statement, a few years ago, India has proposed a few sites for building up nuclear power plant. And one of them was in Haripura, that is the West Bengal. So there was some dispute. But still, that is in the table I found from the Atomic Energy Ministry statement. So whether you will be proposing to carry on these sites, including the Haripura, or will you propose a new alternative site for that?
Suhasini.
If I could ask after Sanjeev's question as well, the fact that Prime Minister Modi and President Putin are going to be meeting on exactly the same day as Mr. Biden welcomes Ukrainian President Zelensky, as well as all the NATO members and some Indo-Pacific members as well. Is there a larger message in terms of where India stands on the Russia-Ukraine war in all of this? And does the Prime Minister plan, obviously not right away, but a future visit to Kiev at any point?
Enjoy.
Sir, one of the biggest defense deals in recent times with Russia was the S-400. Now, some have come, but certain deliveries in these last few months have been delayed. Is this issue going to come up because this is critically important for India's air defense, and the delays are causing some concern.
So last two questions. Tripti there.
Hi, I'm Parul Chandra. I want to know what is the status on the reciprocal exchange of logistics agreement, which is proposed between India and Russia and which has been delayed for long.
Tripti.
Tripti Lahiri with the Wall Street Journal. Rosboron Export yesterday announced that it has a joint venture in India for manufacturing certain kinds of ammunition used by tanks that are in the Indian Army. Is this in response to Indian concerns about supplies and spares? And also could part of that production be used not only in India but also by Russia, exported to Russia?
So last two questions. Elena and then Kadambini.
Good afternoon, TASS News Agency, Elena. Later on this year, Russia will also host a BRICS summit. And my question, can we expect that this visit by Shri Narendra Modi to Moscow will somehow start a chain of visits to Russia? And what is the importance for India of BRICS? And how do you assess the enlargement of this organization? Thank you.
कादम्बिनी शर्मा from NDTV. क्या भारत की तरफ से रूस यूक्रेन युद्ध में मीडिएशन करने के लिए भी कोई ऑफर दिया जाएगा?
उमा शंकर सिंह NDTV से 41 साल बाद कोई भारतीय प्रधानमंत्री ऑस्ट्रिया जा रहे हैं, क्या वहाँ पे मुद्दे अहम रहेंगे और किस तरह के द्विपक्षीय मुद्दों पर बातचीत होगी और उसको आगे बढ़ाने की बात होगी?
फाइनली नीरज.
सर, अभी वैश्विक शांति सम्मेलन हुआ था यूक्रेन के मसले पर और उसमें भारत का भी प्रतिनिधित्व हुआ था, हालांकि साझा घोषणा पत्र का हिस्सा भारत नहीं बना था. क्या इसके आउटकम के आगे कोई बात होगी? हालांकि आपने कहा है कि प्री जज नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन फिर भी अगर कुछ बता सके इस पे.
Thank you very much. On the question relating to INSTC corridor, look, the larger substantive area of cooperation between India and Russia, which relates to the connectivity, would definitely be, one of the important, has always been one of the important areas of our cooperation. And this has also featured, as you rightly observed in EM's comments also. So we do expect the connectivity as an important domain of partnership between India and Russia to come out of this visit as an important outcome. You refer to Chabaha. There is also the eastern corridor that's being talked about between Chennai and Vladivostok. But the overall connectivity domain would be an important area of partnership between our two countries. जो आपका प्रश्न था ट्रेड इम्बैलेंसेस को लेके और उसके संबंध में क्या प्रस्तावित मेजर्स हैं जो कि जिसके बारे में वार्ता चल रही है. देखिए, जो भारत रूस के जो आर्थिक संबंध हैं उसमें आयात निर्यात एक मुख्य भाग है. निवेश की प्रक्रिया भी जो है दोनों देशों के बीच में काफ़ी एक महत्वपूर्ण रोल प्ले करती है. तो जहाँ तक ट्रेड इम्बैलेंसेस को करेक्ट करने का प्रश्न है, तो भारत से निर्यात बढ़ाने के हर क्षेत्र में, चाहे वो कृषि के क्षेत्र हो, चाहे वो प्रौद्योगिकी के क्षेत्र हो, चाहे वो फार्मास्यूटिकल्स का एरिया हो, चाहे वो सर्विसेज का एरिया हो, हमारा ये प्रयास रहेगा कि भारत से निर्यात जितना ज़्यादा इन सभी क्षेत्रों में रूस की तरफ बढ़ सके, उतनी ही जल्दी जो है दोनों देशों के बीच में ट्रेड इम्बैलेंस जो है ठीक हो पाएगा. ये लगातार दोनों देशों के बीच में, दोनों व्यवस्थाओं के बीच में जो वार्ता चलती रही है, आयात निर्यात में जो इम्बैलेंस है, ये सदैव ही एक महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दा रहा है दोनों देशों के बीच में बातचीत का। लेकिन इसमें ध्यान तलब ये भी ध्यान रखना आवश्यक है कि जो दोनों देशों ने द्विपक्षीय व्यापार का जो टारगेट रखा था 2025 का, कितना 25 बिलियन का शायद वो टारगेट था, वो ऑलरेडी जो है पार हो गया है। तो ये भी हमारा प्रयास रहेगा कि आगे आने वाले सालों में हम अपने व्यापार को और एक उच्च स्तर के टारगेट प्रदान करें और दोनों देशों के बीच में आर्थिक सहयोग को प्रगति दें। Sudhir, to your question on India-Russia payment mechanism, I really do not know which specific mechanism are you referring to, but currently we have a mechanism of payments in which the trade settlements are done, and those payment mechanisms as of now appear to be working fine. So I really do not know if you're referring to a specific trade mechanism per se. Mr. Sanjay, to your question, and I think Suhasini's question is linked to that, to what you mentioned, and I'll just tangent in the question which was referred to with regard to Birkenstock conference in Switzerland. Look, the larger messaging on Russia-Ukraine conflict, let me make that very clear, and this was articulated very clearly by the leader of the Indian delegation at the Birkenstock conference, who is sitting here with us. And I'll just, pick up key elements of what was said at that meeting by India, which captures the messaging part, what was referred to, which was one, that we share the global concern over the situation in Ukraine and naturally support any collective desire to facilitate a peaceful resolution of the conflict. We have always maintained a very clear and consistent position and approach that enduring peace can be achieved only through dialogue and diplomacy, and we continue to believe that such a peace requires bringing together all stakeholders and a sincere and a practical engagement between the two parties of the conflict. With regard to the scheduling of the Prime Minister's visit to Russia, as I mentioned in my opening remarks and in a subsequent answer also, we look at our relationship with Russia purely from a framework of reference of bilateral relationships. Annual summit has not been held between the two countries since 2021, and this was scheduled and is been scheduled to be held at this time. I think this is all there is to it. I would not want to read anything more in that in terms of its significance, except to say that we attach great importance to this annual summit. It's taking place after 3 years, and there is a significant amount of agenda issues to be taken up by the two leaders to give them new direction, drive, and momentum. Insofar as the civil nuclear cooperation is concerned, the question relating to that, I mentioned, look, this is an important area of our energy partnership. Kudankulam 1 and 2, the two sites are operational, and 3 to 6 are currently in progress. I do not have anything specific to share with you with regard to the alternate site at this stage. Whenever we have that information, we'll be very happy to share it with you. Shinjay, on S400, I've already in some manner responded to when Humaji asked the same question, that look, defense cooperation is important for us. There are large subdomains of the defense partnership between India and Russia that remain under discussion between the two defense ministries. supplies of S-400 is one of the components of that. A related question was on the spares. I think it was Ms. Tripti Lahiri that asked on the Rosberoni export statement. And look, spares, India-Russia cooperation on spares, their co-production in India is not a new item of discussion between the two countries. This has been under discussion for last several years, and there is a progressive increase in the co-production, not co-designing I would say, but co-production and manufacturing of those spares in India. And this is a part of a long-standing understanding between the two countries on how different systems and subsystems would eventually end up getting manufactured in India. So on the spares, that is the situation. Look, on the BRICS summit, we attach great importance to BRICS. We have very strongly supported Russia's presidency of the BRICS summit and have been very extensively participating in the BRICS related engagements, including in the revised extended format. Now, this is something which, in terms of its agenda matrix, in terms of the areas of cooperation that are discussed in BRICS, and how they are positioned in our cooperation within the BRICS format, is extremely important to us. So, whether you take practical engagement, such as, for example, under the new development bank, which is under the BRICS format, whether you look at the BRICS contingency reserve arrangement, which is under the BRICS remote satellite constellation, remote sensing satellite constellation, BRICS Business Council. I mean, I can go on and on. There are a list of areas which get prioritized in BRICS. Now, each of these areas are important to us, just as they are important to the other BRICS countries also. And we will be participating very actively and have been always actively participating in the BRICS engagement. And the meetings under the Russian presidency will be no exception. You will see good and strong Indian participation at the BRICS meetings in Russia also. कादम्बरी जी, जो आपका प्रश्न था मीडिएशन को लेके, भारत रशिया यूक्रेन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में भारत की मीडिएशन, मेरे ख्याल से इसका उत्तर मैं ऑलरेडी दे चुका हूं, जिसमें मैंने स्पष्ट रूप से कहा है कि डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी और दोनों साइड्स का, ऑल स्टेक होल्डर्स और दोनों साइड्स का इन्वॉल्व होना इसमें बहुत आवश्यक है. ये बात स्पष्ट रूप से, प्रत्यक्ष रूप से प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वयं राष्ट्रपति पुतिन को सितंबर 2022 में जब उनकी मुलाकात समरकंद में हुई थी, उसमें स्पष्ट रूप से सबके सामने रखी थी. और हमारा ये हमेशा प्रयास रहेगा कि इस मुद्दे का जितनी जल्दी एक शांतिपूर्ण समाधान हो, उतना ही जो है सबके लिए ये लाभकारी रहेगा. Austria, I would leave for my colleague to answer. I think there was one question on the reciprocal logistics exchange agreement. I don't have anything specific on that to report to you right now. Let me just check, and if we have an update, we will revert to you. Pawan, on Austria.
Thank you. I think as Foreign Secretary has already spelled out, this is a visit happening to Austria after a very long time. 41 years since we've had a prime ministerial visit. So I think the significance is there in terms of having engagement at this level. The fact is that we've had good, steadfast relations with Austria back since 1949 when we recognized them. And we have been having quite a bit of engagement over the last 2-3 years. But that has been building up, I would say, to this summit level sort of interaction that we're getting into. The foreign ministers have been meeting regularly. Our focus is very much on business, innovation, technology. These are the areas we're going to focus on. Foreign Secretary, in his opening remarks, mentioned that we had the visit of their Labor and Economy Minister in February, and there was a launch of a startup project, a startup bridge. Following this, there was just last month, about 20 Indian startups visited Vienna for a very big event. So innovation is one area we're going to focus on. We're also looking at what we can do in terms of technology. There are over, I think, 30 to 40 large Austrian companies already present in India in a range of areas from infrastructure, tunneling, track laying. We've got a fair amount of investments from India already in Austria, but we want to see how we can take these forward. We want to look at other key areas, clean technologies, renewables. We want to look at different areas where we can try and work together. There's considerable scope. So, and of course, we will, as I said, the Chancellor and the Prime Minister have not had occasion. Foreign Secretary mentioned that their current Foreign Minister, when he was Chancellor during the COP26 in Glasgow, our Prime Minister had occasion to meet him. But this will be a good occasion for the highest level engagement between India and Austria to take place. Thank you.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the close of this press engagement. I would like to thank Foreign Secretary and Secretary West for taking out time to meet our media friends. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for all the details on the visit. Thank you.
Thank you very much.